What's up, everyone? We are back with the second edition of Punching Up. I am your host, Maya May, and I started my day by punching up. I was in the boxing class, hitting the bag because we're about 20 days out from the election, and that's how I'm going to get through it. Boxing, cupcakes, and watching Fox News because I actually love to consume conservative media. Why? Because it helps me understand what messages they're putting out to their people so that when somebody starts echoing these talking points, I don't go, actually, I would like taco points. I just said taco points. I think I'm hungry. When people echo those talking points, I can actually say, oh, I know where you heard this from, for one, but also it helps us not get caught up in why are people saying these things? Why are people believing these things? It's because they are being fed constant propaganda. I once watched Fox News for 2 weeks straight, and at the end of it, I was like, what are we going to do about the border? We need to do something. Like, that's what it is. It can actually program your mind in 2 weeks straight. So tonight's guest is someone who has been actively helping us understand what's going on Fox News without traumatizing us. And so I think it's incredibly important to talk to her in these weeks leading up to the election. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Juliet Jeske from Decoding Fox News. Hello. Thank you for being here because it is rough out in these Fox streets.
It is very rough out right now. Today's been nuts. Absolutely bonkers.
It has been. And so we've got the Brett Baier interview that clips are dropping right now as we speak.
Yeah.
We have that Harris Faulkner women town hall debacle to talk about. We're going to talk about it all. But before we do, I just want, can you just give our viewers, everyone who's watching, just a quick overview of why you are doing this? Like, why? Why are you subjecting yourself to Fox News?
I got my start as an amateur going after the Proud Boys before anybody really knew who they were. Like the media, the press that covered extremism knew who they were, and that was it. So like a handful of journalists, and then I knew somebody who got radicalized, and I sort of followed them down the rabbit hole and discovered Gavin McInnes, the founder of the Proud Boys, and he was making the group as I discovered this. And I ended up capturing all 407 episodes of the Gavin McInnes Show where the Proud Boys were formed. I became an amateur researcher. I started giving my research to journalists. It snowballed, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to grad school and be a journalist myself. And then when I was in grad school, my capstone, which is like your thesis, was me analyzing right-wing media, comparing it to nonpartisan media. And it took it was 3 months of media. It was nuts. It was this huge, huge project. And like somebody from my school read it, loved it. And then within 48 hours of me officially graduating, they offered me, we're going to get you a grant. We'll get you set up. And I had a grant for 18 months, but I've been crowdsourced for over, I don't know at this point anymore, but the grant ran out, and now I've been crowdsourced since. But so it's all reader supported. So
check out our Substack is what we're saying. Check out the Substack. You have to support the independent journalists. So this is what's crazy to me. You went down the rabbit hole right after your friend, and you emerged a journalist, which I think is actually a story that we don't hear too much. Why is it, to me, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that we're seeing today, but what is it that you've seen about the people who have, I don't want to say fallen prey to this, but who have ended up down this hole, never to be found or seen again?
Well, there's a few reasons why people go down there. It's wild. I think in some cases, it's more exciting to believe a fairy tale than to believe reality. Reality is not that exciting. Knowing that we have a system of government, it's slow, it's ineffective, it's frustrating. We have to vote on everything. The idea of just getting a bill passed can take forever. You have to, maybe you don't get it passed the first time. You try a second time, you try a third time. Getting elected is very frustrating for a lot of people. You want the perfect candidate. And we always end up with things where we're like, this isn't that exciting. Whereas what extremists push, and a little bit Fox also does this as well, is this fairy tale of poor you, especially your classic like an older white person in the South or in the Midwest or really any part of the country, but that's kind of their demographic, like an older white person.
Mm-hmm.
And then they panic them with like, you're the victim. Everyone else is out to get you. And it's all this big cabal, this whole trickery to make
Mm-hmm.
your life horrible. And we're going to blame the most disenfranchised people in the country, migrants. We're going to blame people of color. We're going to blame LGBTQ people. We're going to blame all of these other forces working against poor you who've worked and slaved your whole life and saved your money. And that's kind of what they paint. That's the picture they paint. That's the idea. And that takes it off that person. So the person who's like, maybe they're retired and they aren't happy about certain things in their life. Things didn't work out the way they thought they would. And Fox and extremists give these people a scapegoat to basically say, well, this is why you aren't happy with your life. And this is why things didn't work out for you. We've explained it for you, rather than going, we have a frustrating system. Democracies are frustrating because they don't, you can't just snap your fingers and get what you want. A lot of times you have to wait and well, you get part of what you want, or,
So
the whole 9 yards.
So how do we get people? So, because like when I walk into a gym or an establishment or a hotel and I see Fox News running on, and I'm going, how do we break away from this? How do we break out of this? Because it is entertainment, right? And quite frankly, right now, politics has almost had to compete with Fox News and become entertaining in that way. So what are our alternatives to keep it exciting, to keep it fresh, but without but without Fox?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard question. I mean, I think it's a hard question to answer. I think the key is to not. I think one of the things the media does that I think is a mistake is they constantly focus on the horse race too much, instead of focusing on things that would actually help people's lives. Like if you could just focus on like, how can we get health insurance to more people, or can we talk about health insurance rather than just here's a poll today and this guy's up 1 point and this person's down 1 point, and that constant like panic. I think that doesn't help. I think focusing on solutions, focusing on things that people actually care about, I think that would help a lot. And I know what you talk about with entertainment. It's hard because they're just lying to people. They're just lying and scaring people. It's like the fear machine.
And it functions incredibly well. And I love that you brought up solutions, because solutions journalism is one of the things that is starting to catch on a little bit. And I know people are craving it, because there was a recent survey that showed that what people were hoping to get from their news media was, what are the stances on the issues? What are their stances on the policies? And there's a complete disconnect, because what's being served up is everything that triggers that like fear in that amygdala, so that everybody's like freaking out. And I think about it like raising kids. They say like, you can't just take something away from them. You can't take away their favorite toy. You have to give them something else to replace it with. And so that's why my mind is kind of thinking about, the solutions, like what can we replace their, like, grandpa, I got you this amazing, I don't know, Instapot, so you can make all of these great meals, and now you don't have to watch our, like, find a new show for them. That's all I'm saying. Something.
Yeah. I mean, I know when they talk about de-radicalization, which they don't like to say deprogramming anymore, the experts who do this sort of thing, the term is de-radicalization apparently. But from what I've read, is when somebody is coming at you, like when you have your crazy Fox uncle and he's coming at you and he's like, I'm just so mad about these migrants and blah, 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 blah. And they're just like super angry. The best thing to do is to be incredibly chill when they do that. And instead of going, well, I have this fact and I have this fact and I have this fact, that technique will save somebody who's on the edge from going over. That technique will keep somebody from getting sucked into Fox if you show them facts, if you show them data. But somebody's already there, that's not going to work. You have to be like, wow, hey, uncle, do you really think that? And just be incredibly laid back and almost be a mirror for them to see how they're acting. And it's very difficult to do, especially if you're related to the person, or if it's like your spouse, your parent or sibling, because you're so emotionally connected to that person. but actually being very chill and very non-judgmental, and don't use terms like you're brainwashed or you're stupid or you're being lied to. If you're just very like, yeah, I don't see it that way, and you don't feed into that hysteria, that helps pull them out of it, because ultimately they have to pull themselves out of it. That's the hardest part. It's almost like an addiction.
Like
They have to see it.
It's like interesting because it's almost like the way it's being proposed is that everybody around them has to act like it is an intervention,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
can't be accusatory,
Yeah.
and we have to create that distance. But how? And I, for one, believe the how is in microdosing conservative media. I'm like, just give me a little bit here and a little bit there. That way, I don't get all agitated about it, because if I listen to it every now and then, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe the thing that Trump said today. Like, But if I watch it every day, for a good portion of the day, it's like, oh yeah, he said that thing. And so in a way, by microdosing it, and for everybody who's not watching, microdosing is a thing that the tech bros do. Apparently, it's like you take a little bit of mushroom. I don't know. I don't actually microdose, but I've heard the term because I live in California. I'm sure RFK Jr. probably talks about microdosing. I'm waiting for a lower third to come up about microdosing. So explain this to the people. But if you take it in bits, it does become less enraging. Like, that's the way I like to go into X, is like I pop in. I'm like, is this as opposed to once I feel myself starting to get angry, that's when I disengage, and that's when I go to the boxing class. That's why it's called punching up. Yes, macrodose punching up, microdose Fox News, macrodose. Because look at these guys. Like, I was going to do that at some point.
I was born in the 70s. I don't really have guns anymore. I
too was born in the 70s.
No.
Yes. I am Gen X. I'm solidly Gen X.
Gen X.
Thank you. Gen X. We need a thing, like where we're just like, when we see each other now,
we just shrug. We just shrug and go,
we're doing our best.
I always joke. I said my entire generation was raised by, what do they call it? Garden hose water, Hot Pockets, and a TV remote. There you go. Gen X.
Facts.
That was our parent. Although we didn't get Hot Pockets. My parents couldn't afford Hot Pockets. So we got,
I was going to say, I didn't think I did either.
Somebody said that to me, and I'm like, I just think it's a funny thing to say Hot Pocket. But I go, no, we dreamed of Hot Pockets as children. Yeah. It's like, we can't get that. Okay.
Yeah. And Kamala Harris is basically she's on the tail end of Gen X. A lot of people are like, she's not Gen X, but we are claiming her.
Yeah, she's good. It's good enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot to love about her, but apparently Fox News thinks there isn't. So we have a clip that I want to roll. It's from one of the shows from last week. So we can go ahead and put that up. And I kind of want to get your thoughts on what's happening here.
The funny part about that is no one can give them 3 reasons or even 1 reason to like Kamala, right? We know this. It's a pure anti-Trump vote. She wasn't the first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice for Democrats. For some reason, she cut in line. Talk about unfair. So this is a campaign that is based on emotional trauma. Harris is just the doll you use to say where Trump hurt you.
Yeah. She did say that
I love how he had to check his notes for that. Like,
he does all the time. That's Greg Gutfeld. He identifies as a comedian. I say that because I won't call him a comedian. And he has a whole thing of notes. I'm just going to grab a pad. He always goes on there with like a whole thing of like detailed notes, and he reads his jokes directly. And I'm like, come on, buddy. That's so hack. Yeah. And he thought that was funny. And it's like, dude, that's a comedy killer. Number one, sexual abuse of children's not funny. If you're the master, you could pull off a joke about that, but you're not. And just the whole idea of like, she cut in line. She was a vice president. She was elected. Mm-hmm. Like they tried to pull that when she first decided she was running. The first couple of weeks, they kept saying on Fox, like, what? Nobody voted for her. I'm like, no, actually, when you vote for Biden, you knew that she came with Biden.
Yeah,
and if something happened to Biden, it's a package deal. But they acted like it was just absurd that the vice president would be the person to basically replace the president on the ticket. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's like, we literally voted for her already. And this attitude that like nobody, it was just, Yeah, Greg Gutfeld is a really creepy dude, and he's obsessed with trans people. He complains about trans people when they're not even part of the conversation. He will work it in. They'll be talking about the border, and he'll be like, when men think they're women and they wear dresses, and I'm like, what the? Where is that coming from? Like, he'll work it into any conversation.
Yeah, it's not effective, because we've actually seen that the campaigns that have run on transphobia actually haven't done so well. So
yeah, because people generally don't care. They just like live and let live. Most Americans are like, that's cool, because it doesn't affect them. Like, if you're
what's interesting about Fox News, though, to me, is that their through line is that all of these things that don't actually affect you.
yeah.
Like, so, because I mean, people have been asked, like, well, how does illegal immigration or immigration at all, how does it affect you? And I've seen clips of people saying, oh, it doesn't affect me, but I don't like the fact that there are people who are getting free things, da, 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 da. And so can you talk a little bit, because you see all of the different shows, and I think a lot of people aren't aware of how their messaging is streamlined throughout. Like, it takes watching all of them.
It's the same shows over and over. It's the same stories all day long.
Yep.
They might vary it a little bit, but they tend to, if they're pushing 3 or 4 ideas in a given day, you will see the exact same clips. You will see the exact same wording, same messaging on Fox and Friends, The Five, and then a primetime show. And like, to the point that you're like, and sometimes it's totally stupid. It's something that nobody really cares about. And they get really worked up about, like, the trans thing is just crazy, because they act like that's destroying America or something. And again, when you actually ask people, especially with like an adult, they just go, I don't care. Like, so my 35-year-old neighbor is transitioning to a woman. Okay, cool. Doesn't bother me, because it doesn't bother me. And then I live in a city that's full of immigrants. About 1/3 of New York's population is foreign born. It's a combination of legal and undocumented immigrants, and they're everywhere and nobody cares. I mean, it's not like this idea of like, oh no, that person doesn't speak English. Are you kidding? I could go to a park right now in Brooklyn and hear 4 different languages, and I wouldn't even blink. It's just part of life, and they're so integrated into our lives, and that they act like, I think the thing that Fox pushes is this idea that somehow they're getting something for free off of my dollar, when in reality it's like, well, they might get, like, because there's a law in New York where you have to shelter people when they first come here. That's a brief period of time, and then they're on their own just like anybody else. So the idea that they're like on the government dole by crossing the border in perpetuity is just a complete lie. That's not what happens. They stay here briefly, and then they're like every other immigrant. They're working a hard job, and they work long hours, and and they're paying their own way. That's how it works.
They're contributing to the economy, and they're integrated. Like, I like that you use the word integrated.
They're everywhere.
Not only are they everywhere, but they're integrated as a part of our economy as a whole. So this idea that we're going to have mass deportations and it would absolutely cripple our economy in ways that it crippled Florida for a brief moment, when DeSantis decided to make it so that you couldn't transport an undocumented immigrant without facing a potential fine and loss of business. So they're pushing these falsehoods that are actually, antithetical to everything that we know about what creates a strong society, but they're able to do it because of the through line. That's what I want everybody to pay attention to right now, is that through line. Every show has a different format, but same messaging points.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what was your feeling? I want to talk the Bret Baier interview. What was your feeling when you found out that Kamala Harris was going to go on Fox and talk to Bret Baier?
Worried about it, because I know Fox. I know how they run things. I didn't see the whole interview because some of it overlapped with this, but I did see some clips, and I thought she handled herself very, very well, because she aggressively pushed back. I think they thought she would crumble, and get insecure and be like, oh no, I can't handle it. She's a prosecutor. She's a prosecutor. She just went bam, 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 bam. Sorry, I have a slight cold, guys, but
hydrate.
I know I got my coffee, but she's got like this might have to get another lozenge, but anyway, it's all about the lozenges right now.
It's all about the lozenge. Everybody needs to have a lozenge. If we've learned one thing from the debate back over the summer, is that one must always have a lozenge in the back pocket.
But that was the thing, is she pushed back very hard. She was very sharp. He was asking her about the dumbest, I mean, I shouldn't say the dumbest, but like he brought up gender affirming care, or as he put it, transgender sex change surgeries, which Sean Hannity is obsessed with. He brings that up constantly. And Trump is like running ads on the fact that in some states, prisoners can get gender affirming care, or as he puts it, sex change surgeries. And I'm thinking, well, how many people is that? I mean, come on, like,
exactly,
a big number.
Like the amount that would hit a prison budget has got to be so minuscule. And I'm like, if you want to talk about prisons, let's talk about the privatization of prisons. And the farming out of labor at like 35 cents an hour. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's plenty to talk about. Well, the idea that any American is like, that's going to hinge their vote. The fact that in California, for example, a transgender person might get that type of surgery, and they're like, oh no, when all the other things that you could vote upon, you know, sorry, go ahead.
And if they're feeling, oh no, it's because they're being told to feel, oh no, because these were not issues that anybody was paying attention to or cared about until Republicans decided that trans people could be a wedge issue. And I am a proud mama bear. And so for me, I'm like, anytime somebody tries to push that talking point, I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and give you like this list of 10 reasons why you just need to shut up. So watching it used in such a way that it's harming people, but it's harming people who aren't trans. It's harming everyone. And so that's why one more reason that it needs to stop, so that we can actually focus on real issues, not the manufactured bullshit. I love that Tim Walz actually called that out the other day, that the only thing that Republicans are good at manufacturing is manufacturing bullshit. And Fox News is in many ways their media wing. It's their media arm. It's where they're amplifying whatever talking point they think is going to get them across the line. So I heard from a friend of mine that they were concerned. Okay, it's my cupcake guy. I have a cupcake guy. Okay, this cupcake guy at the bakery. I eat a lot of cupcakes during election season, and he's the cupcake guy, and he's keeping me afloat right now. Not gonna lie, like I go in there, he's like, Maya, and I'm like, I need a mocha, and he gives me a mocha and then throws in a few extra. It's like the baker's dozen sort of situation. But he was like, oh, if she's going on Fox News, does that mean she has some sort of internal data that is troubling?
I don't think so. I think my gut feeling is there's still a lot of never Trump Republicans out there, and that's the vote that she's going for. And I think also that she wants to, what I saw tonight, and this might not have been her strategy, I don't know, I can't read her mind, but what I saw tonight was a very confident person who aggressively pushed back at Brett Baier, basically told him, like, shut up, you're not letting me speak. She aggressively basically called him out on some of his stupid questions. She was very tough. And I think she's trying to show a contrast between maybe Joe Biden, not doing that enough. And because I think some people have criticized Harris for being scared of the press. That's how Fox presents it, at least, that she doesn't have the spine to go again. But Harris, I personally think, destroyed Trump in that debate. Absolutely destroyed him. That was brilliant. She brilliantly played that. She was a master in that. I was like blown away with how
I was out of my seat screaming. I was like, yes. One
of the questions, I was amazed by her skill. One of her questions, I used to do speech and debate in high school, and one of her questions was, they asked her about immigration, and she managed in a couple parries back and forth between her and Trump. Within like 3 or 4 answers, Trump was saying, I can't make this up. Trump was talking about people in his cabinet that he had fired. And I'm like, I don't know how she did that, but she did that. She was that good.
She is that good. She is that good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What do you think is going to happen to, because I do believe in these never Trumpers. I also believe in the fact that there are Republicans out there and moderates living in areas where they can't openly say that they're not going to vote for Trump, that they are going to vote for Kamala Harris. And so there are these, the closeted Kamala Harris voters. I'd like to feel like there are a few of those as well out there.
I think so.
Am I the only one with this theory?
No, I think there's people like that. I also think, I keep saying this to myself as the polls get tighter and tighter. They keep talking about the gender imbalance. And then that Kamala has women and Trump has men. And Trump's going on all these like podcasts of like these angry incel types. I said incel, I don't care. But he's like, these angry, like, like angry, like super kind of misogynistic men. And Trump has been making the rounds in that like sort of media world. So just like not even trying to get women really, because that Harris Faulkner thing today is like, whatever, a little late. But anyway, but my theory is women vote more consistently than men. And you can look at the historical data for women voting. And it's been like that for years. And it's not close. Women always outvote men. So if I'm like, if she has women and they're neck and neck in the polls, we should win by default because more women will show up than men. Boom, we got it. So that's what I'm hoping. Because it's true. Like every demographic, women vote more than men. Every single demographic, every race, every age, women vote more than men. So,
which is probably why they want to take away our ability to vote by lumping it in and maybe say 1 vote per family or something.
Yeah.
Something wild. Yeah, could you imagine? But yeah, I do want to like put Post-its in men's bathroom and be like, hey, your buddies don't need to know who you're voting for, like similar to the ones that are like, so guys out there, if you have some Post-its, stick them in the bathrooms and let guys know, like your buddies don't need to know. Vote.
They don't need to know.
They don't need to know. Have you followed Tucker Carlson since he's left Fox?
A little bit. He's exactly what I thought would happen to him. He's gotten more radical. The mask is off even more. He's more anti-Semitic. His anti-Semitism is terrifying to me because he has a big following and that's scary. And he's always been racist. He's always hated. He specifically, almost uniquely, seemed to go after Black women to a point that I found it very awful. Like whenever a Black woman would achieve something, any sort of anything, he would go, and he would get like resentful and go on these rants and do like a 15-minute monologue about how they shouldn't have that job or whatever. And I'd sit back and go, he's out of his mind. Like his resentment for Black women is so deep. It's very disturbing. I don't know where it comes from. It's very disturbing.
There's definitely that theme runs throughout because I know Ted Cruz is the same way. I had made a little rant about his, not even a rant, I would say just me calling him out on it. So I actually I follow Tucker still. And so I got an email today that looks like it was a paid ad from the Heritage Foundation.
Ooh.
And so it was all about how Heritage Foundation has a plan and that if Trump doesn't get into office, we won't be able to put in this plan. And I was like, oh, wait, I thought Trump was trying to distance himself from Project 2025. I thought that's what was happening, but I'm wondering if there's a crossover between people who are watching Fox News and are also following Tucker Carlson, or did he take all his viewers with him?
I think it's a combination. I think he had loyalists who gave up on Fox, who just followed him right off the cliff. And I do think there are people who still get sucked back into Fox because Fox, although they did take a hit in the rating, it did bounce back, not completely, but they did bounce back. So I also find it very funny that somebody like Jesse Waters took over for him in that time slot because Jesse Waters is like the poor man's version of Tucker. I don't agree with anything Tucker says, anything. I think he's a vile, racist, anti-Semite, horrible, misogynist, just a hideous human being, but he's good at his job. He knows how to weave a tale. He knows how to manipulate people. He knows how to completely make up a story out of a whole cloth. I've seen him do it. He can captivate his viewers. Jesse Waters is like a dumb version of that. So Jesse Waters is like this frat bro who's trying to be that, and he's not very good at it. So in a way, I was kind of thankful because I think removing Tucker from Fox dampened his megaphone a little bit because Fox has such huge reach and such enormous influence. But I just find Tucker very dangerous because he also like praises Russia, which is bizarre. Doesn't seem to have loyalties to this country. He praised Bolsonaro in Brazil and Orbán in I'm going to say his name wrong. My poor voice.
Orbán in Hungary.
Yeah, Hungary. Thank you. And this whole idea of like the autocrat who is sort of ideal and having sort of this, authoritative government controlling everybody and how that's like this beautiful thing. And he hates women. Tucker Carlson hates women. It's just to a point that's scary. And he also, and this is weird, I wasn't the only person that caught it, he would weave in bizarro sexual stuff into a lot of his rants. And it included a lot of very specific references to like BDSM and dungeons and chains and
I think like
banks, and it's just very weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. The objectification, right, in order to dehumanize is obviously a fascist technique that they're using against everyone. So it's like you either have to fear people or hate people, hopefully both things. And that there is what gives the viewership a sense of control. Like, okay, we've got a strong emotion that we can grip onto. It's fear, it's hate, and we're going to do these things. And so, yeah, I like to keep my eye on all of it. We are unfortunately out of time because I could talk to you forever, but any final note that you want to leave with our viewers about should they watch Fox News? Should they microdose it or no? Should they stay away?
You can check out my Substack, and I do a weekly newsletter and podcast where I talk about Fox, or you can also follow me on X or Threads or Instagram or TikTok and all that fun stuff, where you can microdose Fox without actually having to turn on the channel to Fox, because I post daily, constant threads, all kinds of clips from Fox. And that way, like, I watch all the Fox News you'd never want to, is what I like to say. So I watch it so you don't have to. So think of it that way.
I like thinking about it that way because I could spend that time doing things that I like to do, like making smoothies and baking, and maybe less boxing because I'm not, full of rage as I'm trying to. Yes. So we're 20 days out. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Juliet Jeske, everyone, follow her on X, on Twitter, on Threads, on all the places, the Substack. I'm Maya on Stage. Follow me as well. And we are going to be back next week. So same time, same place, same Resolute Square channel. So we will see you then.
Yay.